Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Slab Gab today, where we're going to take a look at a single slabbed card from my sports collection. And as you can tell by the background, this is going to be a Red Sox theme to today's episode. I wouldn't really consider myself primarily a Red Sox team collector any longer, but there was a period of time for years where that was the primary way that I identified as a collector, was Red Sox team collector. I wanted any and every Red Sox card that was produced, all the way back from the early 1900s right up to the present day. Any player, any parallel, if I didn't have it, I would take it. Nowadays, I think I'm a little more diversified. I like to chase the greats of the game and have a little bit more of a more balanced or well-rounded collection. But I obviously still have kept, most of what I accumulated in my Red Sox days. And, while we have two modern guys in front of you there today, as a backdrop, the slab that I'm going to place in between those two in a moment here is actually one of my absolute oldest Red Sox cards. This goes back all the way to the early 20th century, around the same time frame as the T206 cards that everybody, loves, knows, and loves. But it's a little bit more obscure a set. And this is the card. This is from the 1909 E95 is how it's classified, Philadelphia Caramel release. And this is Bill Carrigan, as the flip would tell you, and the nameplate here along the bottom. You wouldn't be able to tell it from the illustration itself, but you can see along the bottom of the card, he is listed as a Boston American League player, which is the Boston Red Sox. This is a lowly PSA 2. If I'm buying cards that are over 100 years old, I can only really afford low grades, which is fine with me. So I go for a low grade that presents well. I think there are a few things that contributed to the low grade here. Number one, the card is a little bit diamond cut. You can see the border on the left side is larger up top than it is down below. And conversely, on the right side, it's thicker on the bottom than it is up top. So it's a little bit of a diamond cut card. There is some kind of schmuck on the yellow background here, just above his shoulders. There's a small printing defect right on his forehead there, like a little sun bubble or fisheye. But overall, when you hold this at arm's length, like you see here, a pretty nice looking card. I think the main reason it got a 2, on the back of the card, there is some paper loss right here along the top. And that's not a big deal to me with cards this old. I care much more about paper loss on the front of the card. With a lot of these old cards, the back is simply a checklist, which I can get anywhere online, and all the cards in the set have the same back anyway. That is the case with this release, so I don't mind a little bit of paper loss over Wagner and Maddox there along the top of the card. The portion of the card that I care the most about anyway is right here. Lines 16, 17, and 18 tells me that there are 3 Red Sox players on the checklist in this 25 card release. So this is the full checklist here that exists for this caramel set produced by Philadelphia Caramel in Camden, New Jersey, as you can see. And again, 3 Red Sox in total. The uniform here looks a little bit pajama-like, and I used to kind of joke to myself when I first picked this card up that it was like Count Carrigan. He looks a little bit Dracula-like with the high neck on the baseball uniform there. But it's a sign of the times. You definitely don't see the modern players with stitching, in a neck line that high on their uniform. So it's just kind of cool. And yeah, just unique. It definitely has a very similar feel to T206 in terms of just a plain white border and a photo in the middle. These were actually distributed, as the name would imply, with caramel candies manufactured by the Philadelphia Caramel Company. So you would get one of these in your package of caramels if you were a kid back in 1909 and you swung by the local drugstore and picked up a package of caramels from Philadelphia Caramel Company. You would find one of these 25 trading cards inside your package. So that is it. Pretty obscure one there. very early Red Sox card, one that you don't see all that often. Was fortunate enough to pick that up at a show quite a few years ago. I've never been to a national, so this one came from a very large Shriners show in Massachusetts that gets done twice a year. And without having been to a national, that is the largest card show that I've ever been to. Personally, I think it's a couple hundred tables, and I've only made it up there once, but this was one of the big cards that I brought home that day. And if you can believe it, granted this was a few years ago, I'll admit, but I took that slab home for less than $50, which, is pretty good for a card that even at the time I was buying it was well over a century old. So there you go. A super old Red Sox slab flanked by two modern shiny Red Sox slabs. So you've got 100 years of plus of Red Sox cardboard represented in that span in front of you. And that's going to be a wrap. So I appreciate you joining me for this installment of Slab Gab. And I will certainly be back with some more slabs from my collection in the very near future. Until then, take care, everybody.